The story begins as we see a boy named Ming being chased by guards because he escaped from an island, and he uses the bandages on his arms to leap through the forest. But a giant snake suddenly attacks him, and he manages to dodge it, but one of the guards kicks him to the ground. They immediately surround him, so he disarms one of them and uses his sword to cut them down. He picks up a potion from one of the guards, but he jumps back as he sees an exploding arrow, and he sees a man and a woman from the Ministry of Justice. He wonders why they're after him, since he's a law-abiding citizen, so the man notes that he must be executed like the other members of his family because his father committed treason. They dodge his attacks, and the man launches exploding arrows at him, so he jumps to avoid them, but the woman grabs hold of his foot. She prepares to smash him to the ground, but he manages to slip away, and the man tells her not to underestimate him because he's mastered the techniques of shifting tendons and changing veins. Ming realizes that even though the woman is powerful, the man is more experienced, so he's a greater threat. She tries to crush him with her weapon, and he dodges her attack, but an arrow almost hits him and he crashes to the ground. He covers his sword with electricity and charges in, so she tries to block with her weapon, but he breaks it in half and stabs her from behind. The man shoots an energy attack at him, so he realizes he's a chi cultivator. He throws rocks at him, but the man blocks them with a barrier. Ming runs away, but the man keeps following him, and he uses chi on his knife to attack Ming repeatedly. He tries to dodge it, but the man lands a kick and sends him smashing through the trees. The man prepares to finish him off, but Ming slips and falls down a waterfall, and he uses his bandages to take the man with him. He tries to get out of the water, but the man stops him, so they start fighting underwater, but Ming grabs him from behind and ends up drowning him. We go back to when Ming was a kid, and we see that his village is being attacked, so a man tells him to run away. But he refuses to leave his family behind, so the man knocks him out and carries him to safety. We return to the present as two men named San and Guan find a boy who was shot in the head, and they realize it's impossible to save him. Guan mentions that they can't let him die because he's from the Bei clan, who sacrificed a lot to send him to the ghost sect for spiritual awakening. Ming is also lying right beside them, and San notes that they should get anything valuable from him and run away, but Guan thinks it isn't right to steal from the dead. He knows that San took the family head's heart-nourishing pill before leaving, and he tries to take it from him, but he breaks a rock with his energy attack to show his power. Ming wakes up, and San tries to put him out of his misery, but they're shocked to see that there's an elemental force protection around him. They analyze his body and notice that he has a strong foundation, so they decide to save him, but under the condition that he assumes the identity of the boy from the Bei family. Ming puts on his clothes, and they all board a ship, where Ming struggles to learn a technique. But San tells him there's no need to hurry, because it's already impressive how much he has improved in just 2 days. He thanks them for saving his life, but he's worried that he'll be found out, because he isn't strong enough. So Guan notes that there's no record of him in the Savage Ghost sect, so as long as he can use the elemental control method Guan taught him, he can participate in the spiritual awakening ceremony. But he has no idea what it is, so Guan explains that his current magic power is like the water in a bottle, and he can't go beyond his limit no matter what he does. But once he's spiritually awakened, it will allow him to absorb as much power as he can, and San notes that once his spiritual power reaches the chi condensation stage, he'll become a spirit disciple. He wonders why they can't awaken their own spirits, so they reveal that the spirit sea can only be opened before the age of 20, and only the 5 major sect know the method. He asks them about the specialty of the Savage Ghost sect, and they reveal that they don't know, but the sect is rumored to have ghost cultivation techniques. They arrive at the receiving valley, and San and Guan explain that they can't go any further, so they give Ming a heart-nourishing pill, which will protect his heart meridians. But he realizes that they don't trust him, since they aren't telling him everything, so they reveal that they have a backup plan, because they know that he's a wanted criminal. But they mention that his rate of improvement is terrifying, so there's a good chance that he'll pass the spiritual awakening test, and he won't need to worry about any backlash if he succeeds. But he wonders what will happen if he fails, so they explain that he'll need to stay with the sect for 20 years as an outer disciple. Ming heads inside, and he's surprised by the number of noble family descendants, but he sees a man named Lei using an electricity technique, which impresses everyone. They think he'll pass the spiritual awakening, but he mentions that his goal is to become a spirit master, and he's shocked as he feels the aura of another powerful disciple. As he looks around, he sees that there are plenty of interesting people there, and an outer disciple of this sect named Fong tells everyone to follow him to the spiritual awakening test. A few disciples think it won't be that bad living as an outer disciple after seeing Fong, because he's a top-tier cultivator, but Lei notes that they must survive the test. Everyone suddenly starts to feel strange, so Ming jumps away, and he realizes that ghost creatures are attacking them. Ming and the other powerful disciples defeat the creatures, but Fang tells them to hurry because there will be consequences if they're late. Meanwhile, a man named Guy is watching everyone on a screen, and he's impressed by Lei's abilities, but he's even more amazed by another rogue cultivator. He thinks he can find someone in the group to revive their lineage, and a man arrives, telling Guy that the sect leader has ordered all the branch heads to watch the test. A man approaches Ming, and he's surprised that Ming survived the first wave, but he mentions that it's only the beginning. Ming has no idea what he's talking about, so the man is surprised that the big clan didn't tell him anything, mentioning that they're about to be expelled, but he isn't sure what the man means. He agrees to take Ming with him, and he assures Ming that he doesn't need to keep looking back, because the first stage is over, so the ghosts won't attack anymore. But he suddenly uses Chi to grab him, telling him they're already in the second stage, where he needs to sacrifice a person to pass. Ming warns him that the big clan won't forgive him, but he isn't afraid of them, since they're about to be expelled, and he notes that countless people die during the test. Ming manages to break free, and the man tries to attack him, but he sees that his hand has been poisoned, so he wonders what happened. Ming reveals that he had poisoned him when they first met, because he already sensed his killing intent, and the man tries to attack him again. But he quickly restrains the man, who passes away as the poison spreads through his body. Ming catches up to everyone, and Fang shows them the Grand Formation, but they're confused since a few people are already in it. So Fang reveals that they're the inner disciples who have been trained by the sect, and he mentions that they can enter the top 3 formations. But he notes that the outer disciples can only enter the bottom 2, and everyone's annoyed hearing this, but he tells them to get lost if they don't like it. They enter the formations, and Ming is distracted when he sees a beautiful girl named Jia, but he tells himself to focus. The spirit awakening begins, and as the spiritual energy rains down, many of the disciples start falling to the ground. They're told that the spiritual energy infusion can stimulate their spirit roots, which will open their spirit sea, so the more energy they absorb, the more spirit meridians will open. Ming feels something happening in his spirit sea, so he tries to absorb more energy, thinking it will open a meridian. They're being watched by the branch leaders, and the sect leader mentions how they're competing with each other, mentioning that 2 leaders named Lin and Shu even had a fight over a disciple. Lin mentions that she discovered the disciple with the nightmare body first, but Chu tried to steal them, so she had to fight back. The disciple they're talking about turns out to be Jia, and as they see her absorbing the spiritual energy, the sect leader is amazed by her mass control ability. Lin thinks Jia is suitable for her female cultivation, and she notes that Chu would misguide her, but he arrives and mentions that another master named Bing already agreed to take Jia as her disciple. The sect leader agrees with the decision, and he plans to prepare additional resources, because they need to make sure Jia gets stronger as quickly as possible. The sect leader asks Guy if he has picked any disciples, and he mentions that he can't compete against the other branch leaders for the inner disciples, so he plans to take in the outer disciples. Another branch leader tells Guy that most of the outer disciples have only 3 spirit veins, and he mentions that his branch doesn't have the resources to nurture those with exceptional talent. So he asks them to let him keep any outer disciples who awaken their spirit, and they suddenly see Ming absorbing a huge amount of energy. But the sect leader thinks he won't be able to handle it, because he doesn't have a solid foundation. The people around Ming start to blow up because of the energy they absorbed, so he shuts down his spirit veins to keep himself alive, but Guy thinks he won't be able to survive for long. Lei also catches their attention, and a branch leader named Zen reveals that Lei is his nephew, so he should join his branch. Guy agrees to it, under the condition that the rest of the outer disciples will belong to him, and the sect leader asks Zen about the Grand Formation. So he mentions that the spiritual power has been fully infused, and everything else depends on the disciples. They notice something strange happening to one of the disciples, and as a ray of light comes out of his body, they're shocked to see that he has 12 spirit veins. Guy tries to remind the sect leader that every outer disciple will belong to him, but the sect leader decides to take the boy under his own wing, but he promises to compensate Guy in the future. After everyone leaves, Guy stays back and sees that Ming is still struggling, but he somehow manages to compress the energy and awaken his spirit. After that, Fang notes that everyone who failed needs to leave the formation and report to the outer sect, while those who awaken their spirits can stay. Jia is surprised to see that Ming has also passed, and he notices 2 disciples checking the number of spirit veins they have, so he checks his own, and realizes he only has 3. Guy tells a man named Chuan that all the remaining outer disciples will be under his charge, but Guy thinks it's a shame that he didn't get the disciples he wanted. After that, Chuan takes them to meet a master named Ru, but as they go through the teleportation portal, 2 disciples suddenly lose consciousness. Ru tells Ming he shouldn't worry about them, because most of the new disciples faint after entering his magic array, and he mentions that Ming needs to learn 3 essential spells. He adds that they have 13 basic techniques, and Ming is confused because the hall is filled with spells, but Ru tells him not to be reckless. Ming asks him about the technique that the inner disciples learn, but Ru mentions that they're taught only by the branch leaders, and Ming thinks he'll never catch up to them, since he only has 3 spirit veins. Ru gives him a spirit stone to measure his mental power, and he thinks Ru isn't a good person because he doesn't care about the disciples who passed out. Ming puts 1/3 of his power into the stone, but Ru is shocked when it starts glowing, and he asks Ming if he wants to be a spirit master. Ru gives him an ancient spell that he found during his travels, called the Dark Bone Technique, and he mentions that it was in an ancient language, so he had to translate it. Ming wonders if he can see the original form, which annoys Ru, because it took him decades to translate it. He tells Ming that completing the technique's first stage will allow him to reach the early spirit disciple level, and completing the second stage will make him reach the mid-level, which amazes Ming. He wonders why the technique is with the basic ones if it's so powerful, so Ru mentions that it's because the requirements for it are 3 spirit veins and strong mental power. He takes the scroll back from Ming, because he doesn't believe him, so Ming apologizes for offending him, but before giving it back, he warns Ming never to tell anyone about it. Meanwhile, we see a disciple named Cheng, who talks with a mysterious person about how he suspects Ming is faking his identity. He thinks about testing him, but they know that they need to be cautious, because their goal is to infiltrate the sect for the Ministry of Justice. After a while, Ming and the other disciples meet with Chuan, and Ming is surprised that there are only a few disciples there, so Chuan explains that it's because they don't have a lot of resources. He tells them to participate in the competition with all they've got, because it's a good chance for them to get rewards, which will help them grow stronger. Guy arrives with his disciples, and he mentions that the annual minor competition will show how hard the disciples have been training, but the senior and junior disciples will compete separately, since it's a practical competition. A master named Zhu arrives late because he was out drinking after he completed his mission, but he tells the disciples not to follow in his footsteps, showing them the rewards they'll get if they do well in the competition. Ming's team is ready for the first match, and we see that Xiao and Cheng are their opponents, but Cheng decides to fight them alone. One of Ming's teammates named Sun rushes towards Cheng, who endures his attack and throws him away. His other teammate Wan also tries to attack Cheng with wind slashes, but he isn't affected by them, and he prepares to attack her, but Ming uses his levitation skill to save her. A master named Zong is impressed by Ming, and Guy mentions that he has strong mental strength, but it's unfortunate that he only has 3 spirit veins. Ming and Cheng start to fight, while Sun and Wan support him from the side, and Ming sticks to his hit and run tactics, which annoys Cheng. Zong mentions how Ming is targeting Cheng's weakness, but Zhu notes that he can't outlast Cheng no matter what he does, because he has 6 spirit veins. Sun hits Cheng with a fireball, and he acts like he's hurt, so Sun rushes towards him, but Cheng stops his attack and blows him away. He hits Wan as well, so Ming rushes towards him and punches him away, but Ming suddenly concedes the fight. Cheng is annoyed that Ming was able to hit him, so he asks Guy to let him fight again, but Zong tells him that if they were fighting for real, he would have been seriously injured. She tells him to reflect on his mistakes, and as he leaves, he thinks about how there's something strange about Ming, who recognizes the martial arts that Cheng was using. Guy tells Ming and the others to rest before they fight Xiao, who tells them to take their time while he warms up, but he suddenly shoots an attack at their feet. Sun and Wan note that they're seriously injured, which means they can't fight in the next round, so Ming decides to fight Xiao alone. Xiao mentions that he'll only use one hand to defeat him, and as the match begins, he uses his ice spikes to attack Ming. He dodges the ice, but it keeps following him, and seeing that he can't run away, he punches the spikes and breaks them into pieces. He rushes towards Xiao, who uses his ice shield to stop Ming's attack, but Ming asks him why he's using both hands to fight. Zhu is impressed by Ming, so Guy mentions that he's chosen the Ghost Spirit technique, and his strong mental strength increases his cultivation speed, but he thinks Ming is being short-sighted. Xiao gathers energy around his body as he prepares to attack, and Ming remembers Ru, who told him that the Dark Bone technique is similar to the Ghost Spirit one. So he won't reveal it if he doesn't use too much strength, and Ming knows that he can't go all out in the fight, but he also can't lose easily. Xiao throws ice spikes towards him, and he lets them hit him on purpose, but one of the spikes gets close to his heart. So he uses his bone shrinking technique to avoid it, but Cheng notices it, and realizes it's a technique from the Xian Island. After that, Guy announces the results, and he tells them to get their rewards from Zhu. Zong heals Ming's injuries, and she mentions how none of his vital points were hit, telling him she's impressed by his combat abilities. Zhu gives him his reward, but Zong also gives him a 3-star shield, which surprises Zhu, because he knows that it belonged to someone important to her. She asks him if he's decided what techniques he'll choose along with the Ghost Spirit one, but he mentions that his only goal is to get stronger, so he hasn't thought about anything else. He asks her to guide him, so she tells him to watch the fight of a disciple named Shin if he really wants to pursue the path of spirit communication. Ming watches the fight as Shin's opponent tries to blow him up using talismans, but he blocks them with his shield. He summons a skeleton, which surprises Ming, and he wonders if he can achieve it after he cultivates his technique, but Chuan mentions how the strength of a person's ghost depends on his luck. In the match, the opponent blows up the skeleton, but he's shocked as it starts to regenerate, and Wan thinks that if Ming had the skeleton, he would have been able to defeat Xiao. But Chuan notes that Shin has been too focused on refining the white bone demon, which is why he's stuck on the spirit disciple stage. Shin wins the match, and he's about to hurt his opponent, but Guy stops him, telling the disciples the competition is over, and he notes that they were all able to improve. After everyone leaves, Ming thinks about practicing, because he knows that he's weaker than the top disciples. He decides to test out the 3-star shield on a regular bone demon, so he asks a junior disciple to help him, but he demands 1 spirit stone in return. Ming tries to negotiate, but the junior tells him to get lost if he can't afford it, so Ming gives him a stone, and thinks about finding ways to earn more, because he only gets 5 stones a month. The junior summons the demon, and it instantly attacks Ming, who tries to stop it with the 3-star shield, but he gets blown away. He uses his wind blade, but the demon blocks the attack, and tries to stab him. He manages to block it, but it kicks him away, and it tries to finish him off. So he uses his 3-star shield to stop its attack, and he counters with his tiger punch, which instantly destroys the demon. Ming is impressed by how good the shield is, even though it's unrefined, so he goes home and tries to refine it. He's surprised by how strong a regular bone demon is, and he realizes it's the reason why Shin won his match, so he decides to learn the spirit communication technique as quickly as possible. After that, he goes to take a bath, but he's shocked to see a girl named Mi watching him, and she notes that she's his fiancée. She mentions that their families are close, so they decided that if she and Ming managed to enter the ghost sect, they would become dual cultivation partners. Ming acts like he already knew about it, but he reminds her of their age difference, so she notes that cultivators have a long lifespan, which means a little age difference doesn't matter. He puts on his clothes, and she's surprised by how shy he is, telling him he's completely different from the rumors about him. He tells her he just started cultivating the spirit communication technique, so he needs to focus on it, and she notes that he needs to condense Ying souls to form a soul refining cord. She asks him if he knows where to find Ying souls, but he has no idea, so she tells him to follow her. They go to the largest cultivation market near their sect called the Grey Market, and he's surprised by how lively it is. But a man suddenly approaches him and tries to sell talismans, so Mew pulls him away, telling him he doesn't need them. As they move forward, Ming runs into a beast's head, and the shopkeeper tells him to be careful, because its value will decrease if it touches the soil. Ming is surprised that people eat beast meat, so the shopkeeper reveals that it helps increase the speed of cultivation, telling him it's more effective than pills. He keeps following Mew, but a shopkeeper pulls him to the side, and shows him a meteor jade essence, telling him it can turn him immortal. But Mew warns the shopkeeper that if he keeps trying to scam his fellow disciples, she'll report him to the higher-ups. Mew takes Ming to the Wanbao Hall, which is run by their sect, and she notes that the items there aren't cheap, but they're good quality. Ming asks the receptionist about the Ying souls, and he's shocked by how expensive they are, so he tries to negotiate the price so that he can buy a low-grade soul, but it doesn't work. Mew offers to lend him spirit stones, but he buys a low-grade Ying soul using his own money, and as he prepares to leave, she tells him the Ying soul he bought is only good for practice. But if he plans to make a high-quality soul refining rope, he should go to the sect's soul pond and catch a high-grade Ying soul. He mentions that entering the pond requires sect contribution points, but he's all out of spirit stones. So she tells him a high-value sect mission is about to be announced, which will give him plenty of points and stones, and she offers to help him complete it. He notes that his spiritual power is quite low, which means he'll only be in her way, so he refuses the offer, because he isn't the kind of person who is only worried about making money. But she assures him that she'll make him earn everything, so he accepts her offer. After Ming leaves, we see that Cheng was following them, and he reminds Mew that she needs to cooperate with him because of their contract with her family. She tells him Ming is really the son of the Bei family, but she can't tell for sure because she hasn't seen him before. Cheng asks her if there was anything suspicious about him, but she thinks Cheng is the suspicious one, reminding him how he was defeated by Ming in the competition, which makes him angry. After 3 days, Ming meets with Mew and the others, who are going on the mission, and he's surprised to see that Cheng is among them as well. She introduces everyone to Ming, and he asks her how she knows Cheng, so she mentions that he belongs to a prestigious family that everyone is familiar with. She asks Ming if he has any problems with Cheng, but he notes that she's leading the mission, so she can use anyone she wishes. A man named Du explains to everyone that their goal is to gather the blood thread fruit, and the only problem they'll face is the black cloud butterflies guarding the fruit. Mew gives a spirit-attracting potion to a girl named Woon, telling her she needs to work with her senior Mei to lure the butterflies away. After the butterflies are gone, the rest of them will climb the mountain from 4 different directions, and they'll return after 30 minutes. Chang notes that everyone needs to get at least 25 fruits, and if they get more, they can exchange them for spirit stones. Ming wonders what they should do if they come across the butterflies, so Du mentions that he doesn't need to worry, because the butterflies are only dangerous when there are more than 100 of them. After that, Woon and Mei fly into the air, and as the butterflies follow them, the rest of the group goes looking for the fruit. Ming uses his low-quality soul-refining rope to gather the fruit, but he comes across the butterflies, so he quickly blows them up. But a rope suddenly restrains him, and Chang appears behind him, revealing that he put an immortal binding talisman on him, which stops him from using spiritual energy. Chang tells him he only wants to ask him a few questions, and he'll let him go if he's satisfied with his answers, but he threatens to kill him if he doesn't cooperate. Chang asks him about his connection to the Xian Island, but he acts like he doesn't know what Chang is talking about. So he mentions that he noticed him using the bone shrinking technique, which is from the island, and Ming realizes that he belongs to the Ministry of Justice. He notes that he found a manual of the technique on the corpse of a fugitive, and Chang continues to question him. But the whole mountain suddenly starts to shake as a condensation-level beast appears before them. So Chang quickly runs away, and he throws a talisman towards the beast, which makes Ming fly towards it, but the beast destroys the talisman and frees him. Chang flies away, and he's happy because he doesn't need to do anything to eliminate Ming, who gets blown away by the beast's attack. He hits the beast with his wind blades, but they have no effect, and it grabs him with its tail, smashing him to the ground. He tries to punch it, but its skin is too hard, and it sends him flying into a rock. He thinks he can't survive the fight, but he refuses to give up, and he makes a chi sword, which he uses to slash the beast. It continues to attack him, but he cuts off its tail and attacks it with his tiger punch, but the beast is still standing. A girl named Yang suddenly appears, and she hits the rat demon with lightning, but it still keeps trying to attack him, so she hits it again. It starts running away, but she refuses to let it escape, so she keeps attacking it with her lightning, but she accidentally sends Ming flying. The beast grabs him with its tongue, but Yang cuts it off before it can eat him, and it tries to run away again, so she grabs Ming with a rope and throws him towards the beast. It shoots spikes at him, but Yang stops them before he gets hit, and the beast turns its attention to her. It fires its spikes at her instead, so she tries to block them with her shield, but the spikes break through, and she almost gets hit. She rains down swords on it, and follows it up with a destructive lightning strike, but she sees that the beast is still trying to escape, so she captures it in a box. After that, she tells Ming that his skills are pathetic, but he helped her by acting as bait, so as payment, she leaves a part of the rat demon's remains for him. He reveals that he's cultivating the ghost spirit technique, but she notes that it's different from the one she's seen, telling him his technique is flawed. But when he asks her about them, she just tells him to question the person who taught him. Meanwhile, Chang tells everyone else about the rat demon, and Mew notes that the beast isn't capable of causing that much damage, so a master must have been fighting it. They're also worried about Ming, so Mew tells everyone to fulfill their quota of getting 25 fruits, and look for Ming along the way. In the mountain, Ming gathers the beast's remains, but a strange energy comes out of it and goes into his body. A man named Yan stops Yang before she leaves, and she knows that he's been watching her for a while, so she thinks he was testing her before the Immortal Platform Conference. He mentions how she's a once-in-a-lifetime genius, so there's no concern about how strong she is, and he just asks her what she's doing there. She notes that she was fighting a rat demon, which surprises him because it's one of the lowest graded magical beasts. But he's shocked when she reveals that the rat demon was at the peak of the condensation stage, and she mentions how it's a beast that craves human blood. So if it reached the crystal formation stage, many lives would have been lost, but he doesn't believe her, so she shows him a crystal, and he realizes she's telling the truth. He wonders if he can study the remains of the beast, but she mentions that she's taking it back to a master named Cold Moon. So he decides to leave the matter to her, because he thinks she'll discover how the rat demon got that strong. Meanwhile, Ming is annoyed, because even after analyzing his body 5 times, he still can't detect the black energy that entered his body, so he wonders if he was just seeing things. He knows that if he goes back to the sect, Chang will continue investigating him, so he thinks about faking his death, but he won't be able to get the resources to continue his cultivation. He decides to go back because he has no other choice, and he thinks that if he stays in the sect, Chang won't be able to make a move against him. The others are still looking for the fruit, because they haven't gathered the required amount, and they wonder if Ming is still alive, but he appears in front of them, which shocks Chang. Ming mentions how he was attacked by the beast, and he would have been eliminated if Yang hadn't saved him. Mew wonders why it took him so long to get back, so he explains that Yang used a strange technique which blew him away, and it took him a day to return. He gives them 24 fruits, which relieves them since it completes their quota, so they decide to go back. Du tells Ming to come with him because he has a flying talisman which will allow him to heal. Chang prepares to leave, but Mew reminds him that her family is only working for the Imperial Court, so she won't do his personal bidding. He notes that he's investigating Ming to ensure the Imperial Court's safety, but she mentions that if Ming was faking his identity, he wouldn't have returned, because it's better if everyone thought that he was dead. She reminds him that Ming is her fiancé, and she warns him that if he makes a move against him, she won't hesitate to fight. At night, Du gives Ming his rewards for the mission, but before he leaves, he tells Ming that everything in the cultivation world is decided by strength, including choosing a person's dual cultivation partner. Mew arrives, and Ming mentions that she has someone else in her heart, so he wonders why she's trying to deceive him. But they go somewhere private, and she reveals that she already knows he's faking his identity. He's surprised that she hasn't told anyone, so she mentions that she isn't like Chang, who has lost his mind due to his cultivation. She notes that all cultivators are after power, so when their engagement was fixed, the Bate family promised to give her the secret on how to become a spirit master. She knows that he doesn't know the secret, but she asks him to help her learn what it is, telling him he'll have the opportunity to gather information in the future, and he agrees to her request. After that, Ming goes to his house, where he checks on his supplies, and he thinks the beast's remains can be used as materials for creating equipment. He recalls that the shopkeeper told him that a beast's meat can increase the speed of his cultivation, so he takes a bite of the rat demon's meat, and he's shocked by how much pure spiritual energy is inside it. But it takes him the whole night to absorb it, and he realizes that if he consumes all the meat, he can complete the second level of the Dark Bond technique and reach the mid-level of the Spirit Disciple stage. But he remembers Yang telling him that his technique has flaws, and he thinks reckless cultivation is dangerous. So he needs to find out the flaws, but he knows that if he asks Ru about it, he won't admit that he made any mistakes. Meanwhile, Yan goes to meet Ru, and notes that even though he came out of seclusion for another reason, he thought he would bring Ru medicinal pills. Ru wonders if he needs anything from him, so he makes a barrier around them, and asks Ru if he's made any progress. Yan reminds him that if he doesn't break through to the next level, he'll die in 10 years, and he wonders if Ru has been doing something stupid, so he notes that he can't let go of the Dark Bond technique. Yan is angry that Ru is sacrificing his life for it, but he mentions that if someone can complete the 4th level and reach the Spirit Master realm, it will improve their position among the 5 great sect. Yan doesn't care what he's saying, and he asks Ru about the disciple with 3 spirit veins, who went to the back mountain to try breaking through, so he reveals that the disciple failed. We see Ming trying to sneak into Ru's scripture halls, and he breaks his illusion array using a spike from the rat demon. He knows that if he goes straight in, Ru will know about it, so he finds a secret passage. He's shocked to see armed zombies patrolling the area, but they don't have eyesight, so he just hides his presence. He keeps moving forward, and he eventually finds a room where he sees Ru's notes on the Dark Bond technique. He learns that the technique has 8 volumes, but the 4th level is incomplete, so Ru has been trying to perfect it. He continues to read the notes, and he's shocked to learn that Ru has been using the disciples as an experiment for his research, but the zombies suddenly find him. They're able to land a hit, and Ming knows that Ru is on his way there, so he needs to leave quickly. He tries to block their attacks with his 3-star shield, but their punch breaks through it and sends him flying into a wall. They continue attacking him, and he realizes that he can't defeat them head-on, so he decides to run away. He controls one of them using his chi rope, and uses it to attack the other zombie while he runs away. But a black energy suddenly comes out of his body, and he realizes that it's from the rat demon. He tries to seal it away, but it's too strong for him to hold back, which makes him fall to his knees, and another zombie attacks him. He suddenly wakes up in a mysterious place, and as he tries to leave, he realizes that there's a barrier that prevents him from going anywhere, so he thinks the black energy must have sent him there. He tries to fly away, but there's also a barrier in the sky, so he hits it with everything he has, but he can't break through it. He notices that he can't train his core techniques there, so he decides to practice his spells, and he realizes that he doesn't get hungry or thirsty in the magic space. So his spiritual power also doesn't decrease, which makes it the perfect place to practice. He starts to train all of his elemental techniques, and after 6 months, he perfects his wind blade spell. He still has no idea how to get out, so he decides to keep training, but he's suddenly teleported back to the cave, where the zombie is about to attack him. He wonders if he was just dreaming, but he shoots a fireball at the zombie and cuts it into pieces with his wind blade, which makes him realize he really has gotten stronger. After he leaves, Ru and Yan arrive, and Ru thinks whoever destroyed the place must have had help from a spirit master, because it's difficult to enter the cave undetected. He wonders if the sect master is behind it, and Yan notes that even if it's true, the sect master is a cautious person, so he wouldn't leave any evidence behind. He tells Ru that he isn't allowed to teach the dark bone technique again, and the disciples that he already taught it to can fend for themselves. After that, Ming goes to ask Bing for help, but she throws him out, and Jia wonders what he did to make her angry. He looks at Jia's eyes and starts to blush, so she apologizes to him because she doesn't have control over her nightmare form. They hear Bing's voice as she yells at Ming that he has no evil energy, but his spirit sea is denser than normal, which means he used a secret method to refine his spiritual energy. She tells Jia that he's just coming up with an excuse to meet her, and he assures her that he doesn't have any such intentions. But she just tells him to give her 20 spirit stones, which will cover Bing's consultation fee. Ming goes to his house, where he notices that the reason his spiritual power was reduced to half in the mysterious place was because the rest of it was being refined. So he realizes that the black energy is beneficial to him, and he remembers that in Ru's notes, it was written that the 4th level of the dark bone technique is incomplete. But he decides to ignore it for the time being, and goes into secluded cultivation to make sure his spiritual power returns to its original level. He manages to achieve it after 2 months, and he notices that he's also approaching the threshold of the mid-stage realm. He knows that if he has enough pills, he can keep advancing without worrying about any side effects, so he decides to go on missions to get spirit stones. As Ming is walking through a forest, he comes across a group of people, and one of them suddenly attacks him, but he dodges the spell. They reveal that they've also accepted the fishing mission, and they tell him to give them all the fish he caught, but he mentions that the mission is on a first-come first-served basis. They tell him to pay them 20 spirit stones if he doesn't want to give them his fish, but he's worried that they'll still take it. So they note that they'll pay him 3 spirit stones to make sure it won't count as stealing, and he asks them if they are worried about being punished, but they mention that they aren't on sect grounds. One of them throws a spider web towards Ming, while another tries to burn him using a fire spell, but he dodges both of their attacks, and defeats one of them in an instant. The other one rushes towards Ming, but he blocks him, and blows him away. The last man throws an ice spike at him, so he avoids it, but the man blows it up to freeze him, and prepares to finish him off. But he hits the man with his fireballs, and he tries to run away, but Ming grabs him using the soul refining chain, and hits his head to knock him out. After that, he decides to take their tools, so that he can make money by selling them, but he suddenly runs into Miu. She wonders if he has completed the fishing mission, telling him she saw 3 other disciples also undertake the same mission, so she thought he might need her help. But she realizes that she's been underestimating him, because he was able to complete the mission alone. He wonders how she knows about the missions he's on, so she explains that because of their prior arrangement, she always keeps an eye on his movements. She advises him to form a team, because she heard that the Ministry of Justice is investigating the Bei family, and she thinks Chang must be planning a move against him. She notes that cultivation is meant to free them from worldly matters, but Chang is more interested in being a lapdog, so she warns Ming to be careful of him. After that, Ming exchanges everything he got from the mission for 6 recovery pills, which are enough for him to reach the mid-stage of the spirit disciple level, and he starts cultivating. After a while, he manages to reach his goal, and he releases energy from his body, which everyone around the sect senses. Zong tells Guy that someone from their sect has reached the mid-stage of the spirit disciple level, and he thinks they might be able to win the competition against Juchao Mountain. But Zhu is still worried, because their disciples started training a year after those from Juchao. Guy notes that they can't do anything about it, because they agreed to let Juchao Mountain decide how they will distribute the spirit fruits, so they need to accept their challenge. Zhu tells them that Juchao has 2 disciples who have reached the mid-level, while they only have Xiao, and a few of their branch disciples haven't even reached the beginning stage. Zong notes that Juchao is famous for their puppet techniques, so Xiao might lose if they use high-level puppets, but Zhu tells her that Juchao has agreed not to use puppets over level 2. Guy plans to only fight 3 matches, so that they can at least win Zhao's match, and they decide to choose Ming and Cheng as the other 2 participants. Meanwhile, Cheng throws a huge rock at Ming's house, but Ming blocks it, and Cheng tells him that Guy has summoned him. He tells Ming to drop the act, because he knows who he really is, but Ming tells him that he's only imagining things, and he'll never find proof that he doesn't belong to the Bei family. Cheng throws the rock at Ming, but he cuts it in half with his wind blades, which shocks Cheng, as he realizes that Ming has reached the mid-stage. He can't believe how quickly Ming is growing, and he thinks that if he leaves Ming alone, he'll become a huge threat in the future, so he decides to take care of him immediately. He attacks Ming, telling him he'll spare his life if he returns what his father stole, but he has no clue what Cheng is talking about. As they continue clashing, Ming throws a fireball at him, but he easily dodges it, and he's about to hit Ming from behind. But Zong arrives and stops them, asking them why they're fighting, so Ming tells her they were just sparring. They go to meet Guy, where they learn about the competition, and he notes that they'll win 10 spirit fruits for every match they win. He also assures them that they'll be rewarded, telling them the fruits are used to make a spirit liquid, which will cleanse their marrow and transform their body, and they can keep it if they win their match. After that, they make their way to the subdued Dragon Island, where the competition will take place. On their way, Zhu tells everyone that in the past, a crystal formation expert named Fuzhou appeared on the continent with a condensation stage dragon, so everyone called him the subdued dragon immortal. He was interested in treasures and spiritual energy, and whatever he set his eyes on, he achieved it no matter what he had to do. All the masters from the 5 great sect came together to defeat him, but he was able to escape to the sea, and the island where he died is now known as the subdued Dragon Island. 8 years ago, Zhu and Zong worked with a master from the Juqiao mountain named Dashi, and they went to collect fire essence. They accidentally found the island, and there was nothing of value there, but they discovered 3 spirit trees that didn't have fruit on them. So they made a formation around them, and planned to harvest the fruits after they grew. Zhu is annoyed that Dashi is making them compete to see who gets the fruits, but he arrives and offers to fight Zhu for it. They reach the island, where the disciples greet the masters, and Dashi mentions how he heard that Guy took in a disciple with 9 spirit veins, so Xiao introduces himself. Zong knows that Dashi also took in a powerful disciple, so he tells a boy named Yun to come down and greet the masters, but he doesn't greet them. Dashi apologizes on his behalf, explaining that he grew up in the mountains alone, so he doesn't have any social etiquette. But Zhu thinks Dashi deserves such a disciple, since he also has a bad temper. They go to check on the spirit trees, and the masters tell everyone how Fuzhou made a formation that made sure that all the trees remain nourished. The ground suddenly starts to break up, and Dashi reveals that it's the heaven's will that the whole island will be destroyed on the day the spirit fruits ripen. But Zong tells them to remain calm, because they'll make sure everything holds until the competition ends. Zhu makes a teleportation array, which leads to the trees, but he warns the disciples that they need to withstand extreme temperatures during their fight. Dashi's disciples summon their snakes, and one of them, named Wu Fei, orders his snake to attack Ming. But he uses his chain to restrain it, and smashes it with his weapon, causing it to collapse. Xiao stabs the crystal on Yun's snake to eliminate it, while Cheng uses his earth spirit hammer to shatter the ground, and destroy his opponent's snake. Zhu brags that he taught his disciples the techniques they used, telling Dashi he'll go home empty-handed, and Cheng's opponent struggles to dodge his attacks, so Zong thinks she's in trouble. But Dashi tells him not to underestimate his disciples, and the girl uses her talismans to protect herself. Dashi reveals that she got her talismans from her grandfather Nan, and Zong recognizes him as a talisman master, which explains why she can use his techniques. She summons countless fireballs, and Cheng struggles to defend himself, so Zong thinks he's going to lose. Wu Fei blocks Ming's attack, and counters with his fist, so Ming uses his shield to defend himself, but Wu Fei manages to destroy it and sends him flying. Ming realizes that he's a body cultivator, and he starts fighting with his swords, as Ming struggles to dodge his attacks. Dashi reveals that during the spiritual awakening ceremony, Wu Fei withstood the energy infusion with his body alone, so he thinks body cultivation is perfect for him. Zong realizes that he prepared for the competition, and he notes that there's nothing wrong with it, thinking all of his disciples will win against their opponents. Yun tells Xiao to surrender, because he's running out of magical power, but he suddenly uses his withered wood technique, and Zhu is confident that he'll win the match. So Dashi tells Yun to use his trump card, and he summons his green light mantis, which Zhu recognizes as an assassination puppet. But Dashi explains that he didn't break the rules, because it's just a level 2 puppet. It charges at Xiao, who dodges its attacks, and launches his ice shards at Yun, but the mantis destroys all of them. Yun notes that its speed is unmatched, and it suddenly attacks Xiao, who uses his ice to defend himself, but he still gets pushed back. He unleashes his ultimate move, which launches countless ice shards at Yun, but he creates copies of his mantis, and they destroy the shards before they can reach him. Xiao reaches his limit, and the mantis prepares to finish him off, but Zhu admits defeat, so it stops attacking him. Yun collects the spirit fruit, and Zhu thinks the competition is hopeless for them, because Dashi's disciples are OP. Cheng also reaches his limit, so Zong tells his opponent to collect the spirit fruit, because she has won the match. Dashi is confident that Wu Fei will also win his match, and he cuts through Ming's fireballs before charging in. He thinks Ming is out of magical power, but he suddenly launches 3 fireballs at once, and Wu Fei tries to block them, but the second one shatters his swords. He realizes that he's about to get hit by the third one, so he admits defeat, and Ming redirects his fireball, which ends up destroying the wall. Zhu tells Ming to collect the fruits, but Dashi tells him he wants another match, and he realizes that Ming has refined his spiritual power since his fireballs were able to hurt Wu Fei. Dashi wants him to fight Yun, but Zong is against it because she thinks Ming doesn't stand much of a chance. Dashi offers to give 100 jin of refined iron as compensation, and Zhu realizes that it's worth as much as all the spirit fruits, so he thinks the offer is too good to pass up. He decides to let Ming fight again, and the disciples return to their masters, as Ming notes that he's ready for the next match. Zong shows him how Yun defeated Xiao, telling him to prepare for his next match, and Zhu offers to reward him if he wins the fight. Ming thinks the reward isn't enough, so he pretends that he's in no condition to fight, but Zhu agrees to raise the reward, and he immediately feels better. Zong tells him not to hold back against Yun, but the ground suddenly starts shaking, and they realize that their formation can only last for half an hour. The disciples prepare for the match, but Zong warns Ming that his opponent is dangerous, and she gives him a talisman he can use to protect himself. The masters send them away, and Yun's teammates promise to support him, while Ming thanks Cheng and Xiao for backing him up. The match begins, so Yun summons his mantis and eagle, while Ming takes out his weapon and charges in. The mantis approaches him, but he manages to push it back with his attacks, so Yun creates copies of it. They fly towards Ming, who destroys them with his wind blades, and he hits the real mantis. He tries to finish it off, so Yun orders it to dodge, but Ming attacks him directly. He uses his eagle to deflect the attack, so Ming attacks him from behind, but he summons a turtle to defend himself. He tries to hide in its shell, but Ming speeds up his wind blades, and they reach Yun before the shell closes. Everyone's amazed by Ming's technique, and Yun's teammates check on him as the shell opens, but he stops them and puts on his armor. He's glad to see that his prey is struggling, and he merges with his eagle, as he notes that the hunt has just begun. Zhu recognizes Yun's armor and accuses Dashi of cheating, thinking he gave Yun his turtle shell. But he reveals that he's still wearing his armor and explains that Yun crafted the one he's using. Zong is impressed that he can already craft his armor because he just joined this sect 2 years ago, and Dashi notes that Yun is extremely talented. Yun takes to the sky, and Ming launches his wind blades, but the turtle creates a spider web, which stops his attacks. The turtle uses the web to fight back, so Ming runs away, but the mantis tries to cut him down, so he dodges its attacks and counters with his tiger punch. He uses his wind blades on the mantis, but the turtle protects it, and he struggles to keep up with them. Dashi thinks he'll lose the match, because his spell drains spiritual energy, and Zong admits that he's in trouble, but she still thinks he can turn the tables. He uses his fireballs to destroy a cliff, and he gets covered in smoke, so Yun thinks he's trying to hide and recover his magic. The turtle launches its web to catch him, and Yun thinks it's all over for him, but the web suddenly smashes into him. Everyone realizes that Ming used his levitation technique, and he sees an opening, so he casts his triple fireballs to attack Yun. But the turtle gets in the way, and its shell opens, as it counters with countless energy beams. Zong is worried about Ming, but he uses his fireball to launch himself towards Yun, and he dodges the turtle's attacks. He manages to close the distance, and he uses his chi blade to threaten Yun, who sees that Ming used his chain to change direction during his flight. He realizes that Ming planted it next to him while he was attacking, and used his fireball to fly past the turtle. He admits that Ming's strategy is clever, and Dashi admits defeat, telling Ming to collect the spirit fruit, but Zong wonders why he's so obsessed with it. So he reveals that the Sea Clan market is about to open, and they're interested in buying the spirit fruit. Zhu finds it strange, because they haven't opened for a century, and Zong recalls that the Sea Clan has been hiding after the major sects drove them back to the sea, so she wonders if they're up to something. The ground suddenly starts shaking again, and the disciples realize that the magical barrier is about to collapse, so the masters try to save them. But their teleportation spell isn't working, and they realize that their formation has changed, so they tell their disciples to evacuate. They fly away as the flames consume the trees, but a massive dragon suddenly appears, and Zong recognizes it as Fuzhou's dragon, wondering how it ended up there. Dashi thinks Fuzhou couldn't kill it, because he was injured after he fought the masters of the 5 great sects, so he decided to trap it there instead, but his formation was broken after the trees were destroyed. The dragon unleashes its powers, and the masters realize that it has broken through the crystal formation stage. But Dashi knows that its powers are still unstable, so he thinks they can defeat it if they work together. They combine their powers to attack the dragon, but they realize that they can't break its scales, and it chases after the disciples, so Zhu uses his skill to restrain it. Dashi uses his red crystal formation to immobilize it, but he explains that it will take time to activate, and Zong strengthens Zhu's magic, allowing him to keep the dragon in place. But it suddenly takes out the dragon's subduing sword and absorbs its powers, and the masters can't believe it just destroyed its spiritual weapon. Dashi summons his turtle, but the dragon pushes it back, and he crashes into the wall. Everyone realizes that it's extremely powerful, and it uses the sword's energy to attack Dashi's disciples, but the masters sacrifice their pets to protect them. Dashi tells his disciples to escape to the cave, but Wu Fei realizes that a sword energy is about to hit them, so he throws his juniors into the cave and protects them with his body. He falls down the cliff, and the dragon eats him, while Ming tries to escape from the dragon's attacks, but he realizes that his cloud is starting to slow down. So he uses Zong's talisman to create a shield, and she shatters it with her magic, stunning the dragon with a blinding flash of light. It falls into the lava, but Zhu realizes that Zong's spiritual energy is damaged, so he uses his talisman to send her outside. He tells Dashi they can't defeat the dragon because it has already tasted blood, so they decide to trap it with their magic. Meanwhile, we see Ming walking around a cave when Shang suddenly restrains him with his talisman. He tells Ming he never learns because he fell for the same trick twice, and Shang brutally beats him up, telling him he would have killed him if it weren't for his superiors. He asks Ming about the artifacts his father stole, but he doesn't say anything, and Shang recalls the moment Ming's family was massacred. He notes that Ming's father looked pathetic during his final moments, and Shang notes that it's a shame he wasn't the one who executed Ming's father, calling him a piece of trash. Ming is upset hearing this, and he suddenly awakens his hidden power, as Shang wonders what's happening. He rushes forward, but Ming blocks his attacks and takes him down, before kicking him away. But he fights on, and he trades blows with Ming, who easily overpowers him and breaks his arm. Shang continues to attack him, wondering what kind of technique he's using, and he's angry that he can't win. He tries to attack him from behind, but Ming grabs him by the neck and uses his energy to destroy Chang's body. He tries to convince Ming not to kill him, explaining that he was just following orders, but he suddenly launches a surprise attack, so Ming counters with his flames and ends up burning him up. He returns to normal, but the cave suddenly starts collapsing, and he tries to escape, but he realizes that the path is blocked, and he thinks it's all over for him. He manages to avoid the falling rocks, and Zong finds him by sensing the location of the 3-star shield, telling him to get on the flying ship. They're able to escape, but Ming's head starts to hurt, and he wonders what just happened to him. The exploding volcano starts destroying the island, and Zhu decides to retreat, since he knows that they can't do anything if the dragon attacks them. After a while, Ming meets with Chuan, who praises him for doing an excellent job, telling him he deserves to take a break. He wonders if Ming's injuries are okay, so he notes that he feels fine after taking Zhu's medicines, and he asks Chuan why the sect leader summoned him. So he mentions that Guy is happy, since Ming brought back a lot of fruits, and Chuan thinks he might even make Ming his disciple. As Ming enters the hall, Guy praises him for his performance during the last mission, and rewards him with 3 bottles of marrow cleansing elixirs. Zhu tells him that the ingredients in the elixirs are just as good as the fruits, so he should feel lucky that Guy prepared such a reward for him. Guy mentions that the elixirs only work best on the first try, so they should be used together, and he also tells Ming to exercise before using them, to make sure his body absorbs everything. Zhu also rewards Ming, and Guy tells him to hurry back, since the elixirs must be used quickly. Ming wonders how Zong is doing, and he mentions that he wants to visit her, but Zhu notes that he can't disturb her, since she's recovering back at the mountain. He's impressed by Ming's attitude, and he thinks the sect leader should take him in as his personal disciple. But Guy calls Chuan and selects him as his disciple, and Zhu wonders why he didn't choose Ming, so he notes that it's because Ming only has 3 meridians. Ming returns to his house, and during his training, he thinks about how even Zong was injured by the dragon, so he needs to become stronger. Since he wasn't selected as a personal disciple, he decides to just focus on improving his strength, and he's determined to get a core disciple position in the upcoming tournament. After training, Ming uses the elixirs as he takes a bath, and he immediately feels the impurities purging from his body, but he struggles to endure the pain. We see 2 people talking about Ming's true identity, and they think he already knows who the commanders are, since he eliminated Chang. The commander thinks Ming deserves what's coming to him, since he serves as the court's dog, which makes the other person wonder if the commander is thinking about betraying the court. He reminds him that the court has nurtured them, so it's time to repay the favor, and he tells him to investigate Ming to find out what his father stole. As the man walks away, he thinks that the commander has had a change of heart, so he needs to report him to the court, but the commander suddenly stabs him and burns him to a crisp. As he removes his mask, we see that he's a disciple named Gao Chong, and he notes that he's had enough of being the court's dog. Meanwhile, Ming finishes taking a bath, and he can feel that his muscles and meridians have renewed after absorbing the elixirs. He shoots a fireball to test his strength, and runs in front of it to block it, realizing that he has gotten stronger. But he still thinks he'll be at a disadvantage in the upcoming tournament if his opponent is a higher level cultivator, so he needs to use tactics to win against them. He goes to meet Zong, who isn't happy that he wasn't chosen as a personal disciple, but he's satisfied with being recognized by her and Zhu. He notes that he's ashamed, since she had to sacrifice her treasure to save him, and he tells her he wants to go to the Netherworld Ghost territory so that he can capture a spirit creature to improve his strength. She agrees with his decision, but she warns him that the Netherworld isn't a safe place, so he asks for her guidance. She reveals that it's a mysterious realm created by the 6 Ying ancestors, using extremely dense Ying energy to imprison ghosts and spirits, and it's divided by 36 stone pillars into inner and outer circles. The low-level creatures are found in the outer circle, while the stronger ones are toward the center, and she thinks that with Ming's current strength, he will be able to subdue a pawn-level spirit. She thinks forming a master-servant contract with it is his best option, and she warns him against going for a fierce-level creature, since it might attack him while he tries to form a contract with it. She also warns him to stay away from the 2 calamities in the inner circles, since they're extremely dangerous, and she adds that he should keep an eye out for bomb creatures while crossing the swamp. Ming returns to his house after buying everything he needs for his journey, but when he tries to test his talismans, he realizes that all of them are fake. The next day, Ming begins his journey, and he pays 100 contribution points to an elder so that he can enter the Netherworld territory. The elder shows him a Ying compass, which can detect specters in a 100 zhang radius, and Ming buys it for 20 spirit stones. Bing and Jia suddenly arrive, and Bing mentions that they're also going to the Netherworld, but the elder reminds her that the teleportation fee for a master is 500 contribution points. She pays it in full, telling him she isn't attached to money like him, and he goes to set up the teleportation array, while Bing notices that something is different about Ming. So he tells her about the marrow cleaning elixir, and she plans to give it to Jia as well, since she wants her to have everything the other disciples are using. Before they enter the array, Bing tells the elder to give the complimentary Ying compass to Jia, since it's her first time going to the Netherworld. Ming realizes that he was scammed, since he had to pay spirit stones for the compass, and Bing tells the elder that Ming belongs to the 9-headed serpent lineage. So he gives back the spirit stones, and she tells Ming to be more careful with how he spends his money. Gao also arrives, and as the elder starts the array, he reminds everyone to return within a month no matter how high their cultivation level is, since they might turn into ghostly artifacts. While they're being teleported, Ming feels a murderous intent from Gao, which confuses him since they've never met before, and he wonders if it's related to what happened on the island. Ming wakes up in the Netherworld, but he's surprised to see a ghost, and he wonders where the others are, so the ghost tells him they woke up before him and left. Ming decides to leave as well, and a group of disciples arrive, telling the ghost to send them back, since they only have 1 day left, but he refuses to do it unless there are 5 of them. They're worried since they don't want to end up like him, which makes him angry, and he tries to attack them, but his chains hold him back. He calls them cowards, and explains that the only reason he ended up as a ghost is because he stayed back to make sure the other disciples could retreat. Meanwhile, Ming summons his cloud to fly around, and he uses the map Zong gave him to look for spirit creatures, but as he reaches his target location, he sees that someone has already been there. He takes out the Ying compass and finds another creature, but as he prepares to attack it, he suddenly realizes that it's a trap. The monster blows up, but he manages to survive thanks to the 3-star shield, and Gao appears above him, revealing that he was the one who made the trap. Ming wonders why he tried to kill him even though they've never met, so Gao mentions that it's because he killed Cheng. Ming tells him that the red dragon killed Cheng, but Gao notes that he isn't after revenge, and he just wants to know if Cheng told him something before he died. Ming throws a box towards Gao, and notes that Cheng asked him to give it to him, but as Gao grabs it, a chi rope suddenly restrains him. But a red energy surrounds him as he prepares to fight, so Ming attacks him with fireballs, but he breaks free and absorbs them. Ming tries to run away, so Gao follows him and shoots a huge fireball at him, but he manages to dodge it and hides behind the rocks. Gao uses his cloud to fly into the air, and he destroys a rock pillar using his fire slash, but Ming grabs the broken pieces with his chain and throws them back at him. He manages to block all of them and counters with his fire blast, but Ming still refuses to show himself. He realizes that normal magic doesn't work against Gao, so he fires wind slashes to distract him, and Gao destroys them with his flames, but Ming appears behind him and smashes him to the ground. But it turns out that it was just a clone, and Gao shoots a fire slash towards Ming, who manages to block it, but Gao grabs onto him and tries to throw him to the ground. Ming manages to stay on his feet, but Gao continues to attack him, so he tries to stop him with wind slashes, but Gao blocks them and blows Ming away with his chi. Ming realizes that he's no match for Gao, so he tries to run away, but Gao keeps following him. He suddenly sees a group of bees, and he realizes that it's the 2 calamities Zong told him about, so he decides to take a risk. He attacks Gao with his fireballs, and he manages to block them, but it results in a massive explosion, which attracts the bee's attention. Gao thinks the fight is over, since there's nowhere left to run for Ming, but he's surprised as the bees attack them. They both run in opposite directions, and the bees split up as well, but Gao gets away from them as he suddenly disappears. All of them turn their attention to Ming, who tries to fly away, but he runs out of power and crashes to the ground. But the bees stop following him since he entered another area, and he wonders what kind of creatures he'll find there. Meanwhile, Jia is fighting a monster that throws a spear at her, so she blocks it with an ice crystal. She continues to clash with the monster, and she wonders why she can't defeat a bone corpse, so Bing notes that her body has no advantage in the netherworld. Jia wonders why the skeleton is stronger compared to the ones outside, and she thinks it's connected with the disappearance of the immortal sect victims, so Bing confirms her suspicions. She reveals that the skeleton has been transformed by the ghost sect, and explains how in the past, the 5 sects used to take care of the yin energy in the netherworld. But they realized that the maintenance cost was too high, so they left it to the others, and the ghost sect is now in charge of maintaining it, but it's a natural training ground for the disciples. Meanwhile, Ming decides to rest in a cave, but a scorpion suddenly comes out of the ground and attacks him. He hits it with an energy attack, but he accidentally falls into a hole, and he freaks out as he sees the body of a monster close to him. As he moves forward, he senses a powerful yin energy, but he doesn't notice the monster resting on a nearby rock. As Bing and Jia are flying on a cloud, Jia mentions how Bing has been taking care of her, which is why their investigation has been slow. But Bing notes that they should find a place to rest for the night, since the investigation can wait another day. They find a good place to stay the night, but Bing suddenly sees bomb corpses rushing towards them, and she's confused since their intelligence appears to be high. She jumps in the air and freezes them with her magic, but she senses someone hiding behind a rock, so she blows it up, forcing the bomb corpse general to come out. He frees the others from the ice, and makes them rush towards Bing, who freezes their feet and blows them away. Jia wonders what a general is doing there, and Bing thinks he's responsible for the disappearance of the disciples, telling Jia she'll create an opportunity for her to run away. She doesn't want to leave Bing, but she explains that she can fight more freely if she's alone, and notes that Jia is the only disciple she has ever been satisfied with, so she can't allow her to get hurt. The bomb corpses attack them, but Bing blocks them with a shield, which allows Jia to run away, and Bing tries to freeze all of them, but one of them manages to get past her and goes after Jia. In the cave, Ming finally notices the scorpion, and he realizes that it's a fierce grade, but he's lucky that it's recovering since it's injured. He thinks it's the perfect opportunity for him, since if he can subdue a fierce great creature, he might be able to fight Gao. He throws 3 talismans at the scorpion, but 2 of them turn out to be fake, and the scorpion starts attacking him with its tail. He uses his crossbow to shoot arrows, but it doesn't work, and he tries to get away, and the scorpion attacks with its fire breath. He manages to dodge it, but the scorpion attacks with its tail, so he blocks it with the 3-star shield, but he still gets blown away. He's worried that he won't survive another attack, so he uses his chain to climb up the pillars and shoot arrows from above. He notices that one of the scorpion's legs is damaged, so he hits it with his arrow and follows it up with his skills. He realizes that the scorpion lacks intelligence, so if he keeps wearing it down, the talisman will eventually bind it completely. He keeps attacking it from above and uses his chain to restrain it while he starts the spirit communion ritual. But the scorpion's consciousness still tries to fight back, so he takes out an item, which makes it calm down. He thinks everything's going well, but the dark energy inside him suddenly starts acting up, and it drains him of his spiritual energy. He knows that if the scorpion attacks him under such conditions, he'll be severely injured, so he needs to speed up and complete the ritual. The scorpion starts to absorb all the negative energy around them, and Ming is worried that he might die, so he tries to cover the scorpion with his energy. But he suddenly gets teleported to the mysterious space once again, and he's shocked to see that the scorpion is there as well, thinking it must be because the ritual was a success. He knows that there's nothing he can do to go back, so he starts training with the scorpion, and to demonstrate his power, he hits it with his wind slashes without using any hand signs or incantations. But he feels bad since the scorpion hasn't fully recovered, and he promises to help it find something to eat once they get back. After they return to the real world, Ming finds another creature's bones for the scorpion to eat, since it's the only way to heal its external injuries. He notices that there's another creature nearby, but he sees Jia being followed by a bomb corpse, so he wonders what happened since she's supposed to be with Bing. He decides to just watch them, since it might be a trap set by Bing to lure out the enemies, so she might yell at him if he tries to interfere. The bomb corpse throws a spear at Jia, and she manages to dodge it, but he controls it with chi and makes it hit her, causing her to fall. He's about to hit her with the spear again, but Ming decides to help her, and pushes her out of the way using his chain. He realizes that she's been poisoned by the spear, so she tells him to buy time for her while she purges the poison from her body. The bone corpse throws the spear, so Ming tries to intercept with fireballs, but the spear suddenly disappears and appears right beside them. He manages to block it with the 3-star shield and destroys it with a beam of light, realizing it's just as strong as the scorpion. He plans to hold back the bone corpse using his spells, and he shoots fireballs at it, but it dodges them and rushes towards him. Ming realizes that it wants to fight in close combat, but he refuses to let it happen, so he blows it back with his wind slash. Ming wonders if he can tame the bone corpse, but Jia advises him against it, since bone corpses hate the living, and they're also highly intelligent. So even if they submit temporarily, they might attack their master when they're vulnerable. The bone corpse takes out its shield and rushes towards Ming, who attacks it with fire and wind slashes, but it blocks everything with its shield. Jia tries to help, but she can't do anything since she's still injured, and the bone corpse gets closer, but the scorpion grabs its legs and stabs its hand. Ming uses his wind blade to cut its body in half, and it blows itself up, but Jia protects everyone with her shield. Ming mentions that he couldn't have defeated the bone corpse without her, but he suddenly passes out, and after he wakes up, he finds Jia healing him. She reveals that she examined his body while he was unconscious, and she found out that his spiritual energy is depleted, while his lifespan has been slightly reduced. But she notes that it's nothing to worry about, and he realizes that if the vortex can't absorb enough energy, it starts absorbing his lifespan. He wonders if he might have been killed if it wasn't for the scorpion, but Jia is annoyed that he's more worried about the scorpion than her. He wonders where Bing is, so Jia tells him everything that happened and shows him a name tag she found on the bone corpse, which confirms that it's one of the disciples who went missing. She wonders if the disciple's consciousness was still present in the bone corpse, but he doesn't answer her question, so he apologizes to her since he was distracted by her beauty. He notes that he can't resist her nightmare form since his mental energy is weak at the moment, but she mentions that she isn't using that form and thanks him for saving her life. She wonders how she can repay him, since she doesn't like owing anyone, but he tells her it's their duty to help fellow disciples. She still gives him a soul-nurturing pouch, which immediately stores the scorpion, but he refuses to accept it since it costs 10,000 spirit stones. So she wonders if he doesn't think her life is worth that much, and as she's about to leave, he tells her they should travel together, since it will allow them to watch each other's backs. So she tells him to keep up with her, but Gao sees them as they fly away, and he's angry since Ming got away from him. After Ming reaches his house, he thinks about how the dark energy first appeared 6 months after it entered his body, and it was a year until it showed up again. So he thinks it will take over a year for it to appear again, and he knows that he needs to plan ahead, thinking Gao can't attack him as long as he's in the sect. After a while, we see Ming traveling on a flying ship, where he overhears people talking about how someone has been exchanging mana-enhancing pills and rare alchemy ingredients. The person has completed more than half of the medium-level missions, and everyone thinks he's been acting alone. But Ming notes that they don't have reliable information, since he's been working with the scorpion. They arrive at a cultivation market, where a girl named Quen lands on the ship while riding on an eagle, and she tells everyone how the market was made with the help of all the sects. So no one will get special treatment, and she reminds them that fighting isn't allowed in the market, so if anyone acts up, the spirit masters will take care of them. One of the disciples wonders why Elder Lu isn't greeting them, so she explains that the elders are busy with their patrol duties, since the market's security has increased recently. Ming looks around the market, and after a while, he finds a store he likes, so he goes in to get his items appraised. But before the receptionist can do anything, the owner calls Ming into her private room. She sees that he has bone fragments from a condensed essence realm beast, and she asks him what kind of monster it was, so he reveals that it was a giant rat. She mentions that the bones are used to make spiritual weapons, so she offers him 7,000 spirit stones for them, and he's surprised by how expensive they are. But he knows that if he sells everything, it might put unwanted attention on him, and someone may track it back to him. He gives her a list of pills he's willing to exchange for the bones, and notes that he'll buy other items from her store with the rest of the spirit stones. She agrees to the deal, but she thinks it's too good for her, so she gives him a 20% discount on everything he buys from her. After that, Ming is surprised by how quickly he managed to get everything he needed, and he thinks he can make a spiritual weapon with the materials he has. So he plans to visit the weapon crafting street, but he suddenly notices 3 mid-level spirit disciples following him. So he leads them to an alley, where he tries to cut them down with his wind slashes, but they dodge his attacks, and 2 of them rush towards him. Their leader shoots an energy attack, but Ming blocks it and beats up the other 2, before blasting them with a fireball. The leader rushes toward him and tries to use his fire attack, but Ming punches his stomach and sends him flying into a wall. He takes their money and wonders why they tried to steal from him, even though the security in the market is tight. He suddenly senses someone behind him, so he shoots fireballs at them, but he realizes that it's Quinn, who extinguishes the fire with her water magic. He can't believe how powerful she is, and she's impressed that he was able to take down 3 mid-level disciples on his own, asking him which sect he belongs to. So he reveals that he's from the Nine Ying Mountain, and she tells him to be careful, explaining that he was targeted because of the soul pouch hanging on his belt. He thanks her for her guidance, but she realizes that his soul pouch wasn't given to him by his sect, since he doesn't know how to hide its aura. So she offers to teach him how to do it, but tells him to help her take the disciples back first. They're being watched by 3 masters, who are impressed by Ming, but they think it's unfortunate that he only has 3 spirit meridians. Lu gets a message that a red flood dragon has appeared in the Wei province, and the cultivators there failed to capture it, so they think it will attack the market next. The next day, Ming goes to a restaurant, where the owner asks him to see if the talisman he bought is real. So Ming takes a closer look, and he mentions that it isn't fake, which makes the owner happy, so he gives Ming a free meal in return. After that, a man named Jin approaches Ming, and he reveals that he's the forging apprentice of Master Feng, so Ming makes a barrier around them to make sure no one hears their conversation. Jin takes out the spiritual weapon that Ming told them to make, and he mentions how needle-shaped spiritual weapons are difficult to forge. But they were able to achieve it since Ming provided them with enough hair, and he's satisfied with its quality, while Jin mentions that it would be more powerful if it had more seals. But that would consume a lot of spiritual and mental energy, so Feng made it with only 3 seals. After that, Ming decides to go back to the sect so that he can prepare for the competition, and as he returns to the ship, he runs into Quinn, who mentions that she's been tasked with escorting them back. As the ship flies away, the red dragon arrives at the market, which makes everyone panic, but the disciples make a barrier around the town. The masters think they can hold out until the crystal stage masters arrive, since the dragon is injured, and its main priority is to absorb energy to recover. They know it's intelligent, so it won't waste its time fighting them, and Lu realizes that it's going after Quinn and the others. At the ship, Ming thinks about how even though Quinn is powerful, she's still only got the 4th position in last year's tournament, and he thinks he needs to be ready since he has a lot of competition. The dragon suddenly appears, and it's about to use its fire breath to destroy the ship, but Lu freezes its flames, and tells Quinn to throw everything off the ship. He uses his energy to make the ship travel faster, but the dragon gets in the way, and once again uses its fire breath. Lu blocks it with his ice, but the explosion still rattles the ship, and one of the masters named Yun realizes that they have no choice but to fight. So the masters go to face the dragon, and Lu uses a talisman to heal Quinn, telling her to take care of the disciples. The masters realize that the dragon only has 20 to 30% of its power, and they think they might reach the crystal stage if they can defeat it. Yun attacks the dragon with her energy slash, while Lu uses his talismans to shoot a fire attack, and another master summons a huge sword to slash the dragon. But it survives all of their attacks, and it counters with a fire breath, which Lu blocks using his talisman. Yun once again attacks and hits it with her sword, but it has no effect, and they realize that it's about to use a wide area of attack spell. The dragon flies up into the air and shoots a barrage of fireballs, and the masters use their magic to protect themselves, but the flames are about to hit the ship. Quinn makes a barrier to save everyone, but Lu tells her she can't block dragon fire, so she makes 3 water shields to stop it, and she manages to deflect it. But it explodes as it hits a nearby rock, and she gets blown away, while Ming realizes that she can't continue fighting. So he summons her eagle, and orders it to take her to safety, but the rest of the disciples are in trouble since the ship is burning. Yun attacks the dragon with exploding swords, while Lu uses his chi to hold it in place, and the other master tries to slash its neck, but he's shocked to see that he didn't even scratch it. The dragon uses electricity to break free, and Lu thinks they should retreat, but Yun tells them to save everyone while she stalls the dragon. It sees Quinn flying away, so it hits the eagle with its fire breath, but Lu catches Quinn before she hits the ground. The dragon prepares to destroy the ship, but Yin stops it with a barrage of fireballs, and she even manages to block its fire breath with her shield. But it uses a spell that rains down fire from the sky, and she tries to protect herself with her barrier, but she gets seriously injured. Ming charges at the dragon, but he can't even get close to it because of its fire breath, and he ends up falling into the river. He thinks it's the end for him, and as his life flashes before his eyes, he realizes that no matter how much he tries to be another person, he can't change who he truly is. He suddenly wakes up in a room, where Zong tells him he was saved, but the rest of the disciples didn't make it. She tells him to rest, and notes that she never thought the red flood dragon would cause so much damage, telling him to let her know if he needs anything. As Ming walks around the sect, he sees the disciples training, but he thinks they won't be remembered when they pass away. He runs into Gao, who tells him that even though he survived, he doesn't have much time left to live, so he should cherish his life while he still can. After that, Quinn thanks Ming for saving her, but he tells her that Lu was the one who protected her, and she wonders what happened to the other disciples. He remembers how he found their bodies when he swam to the shore, and he also found Yun's body lying among them, so he took her broken sword to remember her. He tells Quinn to go back since it's getting late, and as she leaves, she notes that she'll see him at the competition, which makes him wonder how she knows that he'll participate in it. She mentions that it's because she's seen how strong he is, but she tells him that if he wants to perform well, he needs to work even harder. Meanwhile, Chuan meets Guy and the other masters, who release a black mist, and Chuan uses his chain to capture it, which impresses Guy. He thinks Chuan will be able to deal with the Immortal sect, and Guy reminds him that their sect depends on him in the upcoming tournament, so Chuan assures him that he won't let them down. We see Gao with his master, who hits Gao's head with the red dragon blood, which makes a huge amount of energy come out of his body, and he tells Gao that he'll become invincible if he survives. He absorbs all of the energy, which impresses his master, and he tells Gao to rest, since his body will be destroyed if they use too much of the red dragon's blood. But he's determined to win the Immortal Sect competition, and beat Ming in the process. Ming is also training to defeat Gao, and he uses his mind to simulate their fight, but he keeps getting beaten no matter what he does. He finally manages to land a hit on Gao, and his training helps him reach the late stage of the spiritual disciple. But he also feels a strange energy flowing through his body, and he thinks he can use it to help him win. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.